Hey guys, Dylan from Noble Records coming at you with another video. I am doing a thread on here. Threads are like just a really great way if you're kind of in a rut to do a video. And I'm not really in a rut, but for like the first time ever, I've got like a bunch of content scheduled out, but this seemed like a really fun topic, so I thought I'd jump on. I first saw Vinyl Richie do it, but it started from a guy named The Vinyl Narrative, which he has a new channel, so big props to him. Great topic. I've done videos like this before, just kind of like records that will be, I would never sell or I'd never get rid of or whatever. But this is a cool one, and I thought of 5 cool ones to pick out. Some of them are really just significant to me, and some of them are just so rare they would be impossible to replace. And so that's what this video is about. Side note, if you have not started a YouTube channel, threads like this are a really good way to start. Like, you just do kind of like a vinyl, community introduction, and then you just start. It's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of people, trade records. I highly recommend it. Started a channel forever ago, and it's been a really good thing for me. So anyways, also, second caveat, to be honest, records are just things. They don't ruin my life or anything like that. So if I needed to provide for my family and I had to, I would sell kidneys and stuff. I mean, nothing's off limits. Records, I don't, I don't worship these things. It's not that big of a deal. But under normal circumstances, there'd be no reason for me to sell these next 5 records. So this one, Duke Ellington and John Coltrane. This is a promo copy. This is like an 89 or 88 pressing. And this record's worth about $15, probably. I'm just guessing. Long story behind this, but this is kind of a record that really changed my life. Not really even the music, but this record itself. I've told this story on the channel before, but I had just kind of, this was in like 2010, 11, something like that. I had sold my whole record collection. I just gotten married. I was working, had a part-time job, and that was it. And I was trying to find full-time work. I was making $1,000 a month, and that's the entire household income that we had. I had no idea how life worked. I was 20, early 20s, we'll say. And I just started selling stuff because I needed to pay rent and I needed to pay the bills, and it just gotten married, and my wife's looking at me trying to say, what's going on? And so anyways, sold my whole collection, and down to maybe like, I don't know, 50 records or so I kept, and immediately regretted it. I was like, man, I really loved the records that I had collected maybe 1,000, 1,200 records like that, something like that, from the time I was 10 years old to then, and hated that I sold them, but I just had to. It was just one of those things. So I immediately started like looking for more collections, and I thought, hey, I did pretty good on these records. I made some money. And I'm telling you, I sold these things for like $3 a piece, $5 a piece. That was it. It wasn't like a lot of money. And I was working a job I hated. Anyways, fast forward a little bit. I got laid off from my job. I only had $200 to my name. So what do? You cruise Craigslist to see if there's any deals to make you feel better in life. But anyway, so I saw this deal, and this guy was selling these records, and he just posted like a picture of a shelf, and that was it. And he was like, records for sale or whatever. So I went to his house, and he was like moving and had to get rid of everything. And he had a record store at some point. And in the early 90s, I think he shut down, and he moved all of his inventory into a spare bedroom and then just left it there. I'm kind of telling you the Cliff Notes version. And so I looked through, there were 7,000 records, and I was like, I've never seen that many records in one place. It completely blew my mind. And so I started looking through, and a lot of the records, I didn't even know what they were. I had no idea what most of them were. And I was just starting to get into jazz. I didn't know much of anything. I was raised on classic rock. This is my early 20s. I didn't know anything about jazz, really. I knew the big ones. I knew Miles Davis, I knew John Coltrane, I knew Duke Ellington, stuff like that, but that was it. And I wanted to get more into it, but whatever. So I was going through all the records looking. None of them I had ever seen before. I just was so green when it came to records and music really in general. If it wasn't classic rock, I didn't know it. And so I just was overwhelmed. He was kind of pressuring me to make a decision because it was like he was needing to move, and I was taking up his time. And I was just like, man, I can't afford these. Like, I don't have the money. Because I didn't even know how much he wanted, but it was more than I had. He said, how much money do you have on you? I said, I have $200, and that's the money. That's all the money in the world to me. Literally, it was everything I had. And he was like, if you can clean this room out, you can take it. And so I was like, but then even then I was like, this has to be a good deal, but maybe it's not. And so I'd never heard of any of this stuff, so it might not have been a good deal. And so I just closed my eyes and I said, next record I pull out, if it's something that I want to keep for myself, I will buy the whole collection. And I literally just did this and grabbed one, because there's records everywhere. And I opened my eyes, and it was this record, and it was this specific copy. And it's a reissue. It's not really worth much, but I had been listening to this record online somewhere and really, really wanted to get a copy. It was just, and at that time, like, I didn't give a crap about pressings. I didn't care if it was a reissue. I didn't care. I just wanted it on vinyl. I wanted to have a LP of it. And my heart just left. I thought, man, this is just meant to be. Bought the whole collection, got it home. It was just a bear to move, and ended up being like a huge thing for me. That was when I started selling records. That's when Noble Records was born. I started selling things on eBay. And over the course of the next couple years, it was my full-time job selling those records. And I made way more money on that than I did any other job I had. And then that's kind of what started it for me. So if it wasn't for this specific record, who knows? I might still be selling Toyotas, which is what I was doing at that point in my life. Another one is Don McLean, American Pie, single. Now you can notice it's a capital sleeve, with a United Artists record, and it's got this like super ancient looking 45 adapter. So not much of a story behind this one, other than when I just started getting into records. I think I talk about this some. There's like a Discogs. They did like a little mini documentary on me, and I think I talked about it in there. But I was just getting into records, and I wanted to get some records, and I wanted to get a turntable and all that stuff. And my mom took me to a Goodwill, and I was like, I don't know what anything is. Like, I was 10 years old. I didn't know what anything was. And we looked through, and she couldn't find anything, and she found this single, and this is Don McLean, American Pie, and she said, this is a great song, you'll love it. And, you have to flip it halfway through the song and all that stuff. And so just to me, like, even when I hear it now, it fades out in my brain and picks back up. Just, how that is. But love this record. Love this single. It ain't worth nothing. So that goes back to this one. Like, these, it would be unreasonable to ask more than $15 for this, because it doesn't mean anything to anybody but me. It means a lot to me. And so for no reasonable amount of money would I sell it, just because it means so much. This, I'm telling you, you would have to offer me some absolute stupid money for this, and even then I probably wouldn't do it. This is the very first record I ever had. So one of those things, it stays in the museum. It's still in this is the sleeve it came in and everything. It stays, Now to get some rare stuff. This is a record called Granny. I've listened to this record for years and years on like YouTube and stuff like that. I've known about this record for 10 plus years at least, and I've always wanted one. Only 99 copies pressed. It's from the UK. Amazing hard rock band, and I got it from a really dear friend of mine who I had been courting this record for many years, telling him, like, if you ever let this go, please, please, please let me know. And he finally did this year. So this is probably my favorite find of the year this year. It is extremely rare. It is extremely valuable. But it's a record that I would absolutely not sell, because it would be impossible to find another copy like this. Even though there's only 99 copies, the ones that come up are usually not in great shape, if they ever do. So I've seen a couple copies come up in the past. I've heard about them come up. I've not had an opportunity to get one. And they were like VG. And this is kind of a noisy record anyway, so you really need a clean one. This one is absolutely stunning. Near mint, original press, one of the original 99. It is, look how stunning it is. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous copy. There's always people that say, oh, it's a bootleg. See that deep groove right there? It is not a bootleg. It is very real. The Granny, you can see like it's been pasted over. I don't know if you can see it, but anyways, very real, very incredible. It's the centerpiece of my wall. just because I absolutely love the music. It has been reissued, but not in like a super great way. And just the original is incredible. And just because it would be nearly impossible to find another one in that condition. This is the Led Zeppelin 1 test pressing, or whatever you want to call it, demo copy. One of these did just sell on Discogs for $4,000. So that's a tempting amount of money for sure. But there's not really a great story about how I got this thing. The story behind it, that's it right there. You see that? Beautiful. And behind this label, you can see what it says test pressing underneath. So they made an alternate label and pasted it to it. It says test pressing underneath. And anyways, the story behind this record is before Led Zeppelin 1 was released, they wanted the biggest stations in the country to be teasing it. Everybody was so like up in arms, excited to see what Jimmy Page's new Yardbirds was going to sound like. And so when they got so all the labels, the UK sent these over, these test pressings over. Atlantic sent these test pressings out to so people could preview the record and hear it. So when the record came out, it would just have a huge explosion and people would buy it. So this was KMET from California, huge, one of the biggest stations on the West Coast. And so many very influential people, the first time they ever heard this album, the first time they ever heard Led Zeppelin was this specific copy. So I got extremely lucky on this copy a few years ago. It was one of those things. I was up in the middle of the night, couldn't sleep, popped onto eBay. Somebody had just listed it like right in the middle of the night for an extremely fair buy it now price, and I grabbed it. And I'm going to tell you, it was nowhere near what the last one went for. So got a crazy good deal on this thing. Not to mention, it is a piece of history and extremely significant to me. Led Zeppelin's my favorite band. So I'd have to really be in a hard spot to sell that one because it's just such incredible. Next is Lazy Bones. This is important for me in two ways. There's two reasons I wouldn't sell this. Number one is this is my favorite Zamrock album. It's probably everybody's favorite Zamrock album. It's most 90% is probably. Unbelievable record. If you don't know what Zamrock is, I'm going to make a video very soon. I know I've been teasing it and promising it for years, but I really am. Zamrock is psychedelic funk rock from Zambia. Their culture, the way everything kind of melded together in the mid-70s, created this incredible style of music that is just absolute magic. When you hear it for the first time, you're like, how does this even exist? This is insane. I mean, think James Brown meets Jimi Hendrix meets Led Zeppelin meets Black Sabbath. I mean, it's like all these crazy cultures all melted together. This incredible music, and that's what Zamrock is. It's just this, it seems like this alien music from outer space. It's so wild. But this one, like a lot of the Zamrock albums are kind of, some people like them, some people don't. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of like, I like that one, I like that. This is one pretty universally everybody likes. One of the most impactful, influential, successful ones of the time. They're really hard to find the originals for. When I first started trying to find Zamrock stuff, this is years and years ago, I was doing some stupid things, okay? These are not records that you can go digging in a yard sale and find, probably. I had guys in Zambia that were digging for records, and then they would call me and send me messages over WhatsApp, and then I would have to wire transfer them money with no guarantee that they were going to send me anything, and then they would send me records back, and then we would keep it going. They were always in terrible shape. All the records I got were absolutely thrashed. Not all of them, but many of them. Maybe they did this on purpose, I don't know, but the first record I ever bought from them, they sent me a picture of this record, and they sent me, and they said, hey, do you want this? And I was like, yeah, I want that. And they gave me a pretty reasonable price for it. And they said, it's really clean, whatever. So I jumped on it immediately, zero hesitation. And I think they had sent it to a couple other dealers and stuff. And they were all trying to talk them down, you know. And I was like, if it's clean, it looks really clean. The cover looks really clean. There's some wear on the edges, but for a Zamrock record, this cover's really clean. So I jumped on it in a zero hesitation. They accepted it. They sent me the record. And it is extremely, incredibly clean. For a Zamrock record, this one is top notch. So there's two reasons why I would never sell this. Number one is because this is kind of the one record that it was my first exposure to Zamrock. Really, it was the first original Zamrock record I ever bought, and this is kind of the one that sent me down this rabbit hole of finding clean originals. I now have every single Zamrock original of every single Zamrock album ever. So, which is crazy. So that took me years and years and years to complete the set. So this is the first one that really got me going, and it's the classic gateway thing, you know what I mean? Like, it was the first one that got me hooked, and I never found one as nice as this. This is the best score I ever had for Zamrock. So that's number one. Number two is it would be impossible to find one that's this clean, and it being a record that I love so much, I really wanted a good clean copy. Listen, the reissue sounds better than this, because even though this is a super clean original, they were pressed in Zambia. There wasn't high quality control and all that stuff. So it's still, even though it looks super clean, there's still some crackle here and there. I still have a reissue of it that I listen to sometimes. Sometimes I just throw on the original, but it just would be impossible to find one in this shape again. So for all those reasons, I mean, if somebody was trying to buy it from me, they would have to offer me an absolute obscene amount of money that would impact my future in some way. You know what I mean? So I just wouldn't do it. All right, honorable mention. I didn't include this because it's not really a record. It's a set of records. It's a box set. So this is the Led Zeppelin Classic Records box set. Sorry. Every time I show it, I have to make noises and stuff because it's so exciting. The reason I wouldn't sell that is this is not something I would have ever purchased. Okay, I mean, I did purchase it, to be fair, but for what it goes for, I would have never bought it. They go for 20 grand sometimes, 15 to 20 grand, something like that. I would not pay that for that. I love this, and I listen to it on a regular basis. When I'm like, got the house to myself, I crank the stereo. I sit in my sweet spot in my room, and I'm just like, soak it up, you know what I mean? But where I got it from is one of the viewers of my channel, really nice guy. He reached out to me and was like, hey, I have 2 copies of this. I have an extra. Don't really need the money, but I know you really want one. If I sold you one, will you promise me you would flip it? And I was like, well, how much do you want for it? And he gave me a price that was very unbelievably fair for it. Let's just be honest. I don't know if I should say what I paid for it. I'm not going to say. But it was unbelievable how cheap. It was cheaper than I've ever seen one online. It was really, really a no-brainer. And he's like, if you promise you'll just enjoy it for yourself and not flip it, not sell it. And I told him, I said, listen, the only way I would ever sell this is if it was some sort of absolute drastic emergency and I had to. And he's like, well, yeah, of course. So we came to an agreement, and he sent it to me, and it was just, I mean, it was one of those things. He knew he was hooking me up. I knew he was hooking me up. He didn't really need the money, but he still made money because he bought it new, and he still, made decent money on it considering, but he didn't make the 20 grand that he could have made, and he sold it to me just because he knew I was a Zeppelin lover and I would get good use out of it, and I've listened to the whole thing several times. I absolutely love it. It's every Zeppelin album, 45 RPM, single-sided, 200 gram. It's incredible. If you haven't seen my video on it, I made a video when I got it, and it's called, just type in Noble Records Led Zeppelin Road Case and you'll find it. So anyways, that is the last thing I'll mention. But if you haven't already seen it, check out my series that I'm doing right now. I went to California, interviewed 10 record collectors, and I'm doing this series where we go through their collections and we talk about things that are really important to them. It's a very, very cool series. One of my favorite things I've ever done on my channel, and I hope to continue to do it. So if you haven't seen those, please go watch those videos. And thank you for everybody who's done this thread, and I hope to see more of them. See you guys next time.